Like we're live, ladies and gentlemen, with the countdown and with the rock music.
The
Yeah!
canned rock music.
Woo! Monday, Victory Monday. Streak is over. Take that, Raiders. Feeling good, Andrew Mason.
One streak is over and another is ongoing. You exchange an 8-game losing streak to the Las Vegas Raiders for a 3-game winning streak. And overall, the Broncos, thanks to a 5-game winning streak last year, a 3-game winning streak this year, this team is 10-6 in its last 16 games. It's going somewhere.
They're going somewhere. They're setting the culture, and they are making things right. Monday edition, Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason here to talk about the many ways Bo Nix is different from Russell Wilson and why Sean Payton, he won't ever say the name. But we get it, Sean. Your new guy fits a little better.
Well, it's only natural to compare somebody with the person who was there before, right? It's
for how long?
Kind of how our brains work.
For how long? I always say, you got to get over the X, man. You got to get over the X. So he still talks about New Orleans. Is he going to be talking about Russ like a year from now? It's okay now, Mace, but how long?
I think once the number of starts for Bo Nix exceeds the number of starts for Russell Wilson under Sean Payton, it's time to drop it forever.
Very good.
So
very good. I like that.
Russell Wilson started 15 games last year, so we're at 5. We're 1/3 of the way there. So it's acceptable. Even though you're not mentioning the name, it's acceptable to make veiled comparisons, I'd say, for another 10 games here.
Okay, another 10 games. We got a lot to get to from Sean Payton, who this morning on the conference call, we never know, Mace, like, has he watched the film? Does he still have to watch the film? Was he up late the night before? Was he in bed at a good time? Like every day, every Monday, it's like, what are we going to get from Sean? I think today, just based on the quotes and based on our clips, we got a lot from Sean today.
Honestly, after a win with Sean Payton, you're half expecting that he was circling the parking lot of a sushi restaurant the night before, like he talked about last year after beating Green Bay. Of course, coming off the Tampa Bay game, they had the flight to West Virginia, and they weren't doing their film study until after they got to the Greenbrier, and they did the conference call very early on Monday morning. So it was a little bit of a timing thing as to why a couple weeks ago he really couldn't offer insight on the film. But this was a normal week, a normal Monday, and thus the question I asked Sean Payton was, what did he see from Bo Nix on the film? And let's start there as we dive into a lot of stuff we're going to disseminate today. The first thing that we heard from Sean Payton today about Bo Nix.
Look, he played well. Used his feet, went through his progressions, threw the ball well. Got it down the field, took the underneath throws, handled the 2-minute again. That's happened a number of times now, where we've been able to get some points at the end of the half. Had good command of what we were doing, and I was pleased.
Broncos, by the way, tied for 4th in the league in number of scores in 2-minute at the end of the first half so far this season. They've done it 3 times, including yesterday. A little bit of help from the Raiders with a 15-yard penalty to give Will Lutz another shot, and then he hit it from a very reasonable 41-yard distance and all was well. So that's an interesting thing, though. Talk about 2-minute. You and I have talked about how Bo Nix appears to be maybe a little bit more comfortable in no huddle compared to more traditional setups. They did throw in some no huddle at other times in the games. It seemed to work pretty well yesterday. So that's the 35,000-foot view of Bo Nix. What we saw, what we heard from Sean Payton, beyond that, that's where it gets interesting.
That's where it gets really interesting. And it even started last night. You want to do the Ferris Bueller clip? Because there's a part that he brings up, and it's like he wants to go on, but he stops himself from going on because we know what he would go on with. So, yeah, let's set this up. And I believe this was the comeback question about Ferris Bueller, or was this the first Ferris Bueller reference?
First Ferris Bueller reference.
Here we go.
Listen, last year, all of a sudden, it's just, there's still a little bit of Ferris Bueller in this player that we got to get rid of. All right, talking about Bo, and I love him to death. And so sometimes it's my love language. All right.
Last year, I'm talking about Bo. Like, he quickly changes from last year. I mean, maybe people perceived him as the villain when he yelled at Russell Wilson, and Russ just stood there with a blank stare. By the way, Davis Webb didn't jump in. Davis Webb was doing some rodeo clowning yesterday.
Yeah, Davis Webb jumped in. Like, now, Webb did talk with Russ after, but he kind of let it happen last year. This time he was getting in, and you saw him kind of pointing at the play sheet. You know, he had a play sheet. Sean Payton had a play sheet.
Right.
That's different, man. He's standing up for his guy a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, you know, the other thing about Ferris Bueller that Sean Payton mentioned later in that press conference was, he's got some Ferris Bueller in him. He's got not mischievous, maybe a little subtly. There's times when you send something in and I do not want it flipped, and it gets flipped. And I think when you saw pointing to the play sheet, that's what was being made clear a little bit.
Yeah. But Bo had a different feeling about it. And for me, it's all love, man. I love the fact that they went at each other, because they're never going to bring this up again. You know, it's just part of what you do in a passionate and emotional game.
And, you know, they're spending a lot of time with each other. Frankly, I don't really trust somebody until there's been kind of a having it out at some point, right? Like, you got not like coming to blows, but until you get frustrated and you talk it out. And then after that, it's like, oh, wow, okay, cool. You know, we go on and we work, right? I think that's what's at play here. I was encouraged when I saw the two of them going at it. I was encouraged. And also, even looking at Bo with the receivers, he was going at them a little bit too.
Yeah. Playing referee there.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the quarterback's got to be a leader. So sometimes it's going to be standing up for your teammates. Sometimes it's going to be telling the receivers, hey, you got to do this here, man. This, not that. That's leadership. Leadership isn't all kumbaya, let's be happy.
Rah, rah.
Leadership involves it involves being real.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw yesterday was a real moment from Bo Nix. And that's part of the transition from last year to this year, I think.
Right. And don't take his ways, his somewhat stoic ways at press conferences, as not having fire. We've witnessed it in person many times, Mace. This kid has the fire. Yeah, he at the Senior Bowl when he didn't want to answer the question about being under center. Like, the fire's there. It's there.
I like that.
There was Sean, and that's a good thing, man, because it's a common goal. I won't speak too much out of turn or tell tales here, but like, for this show, which everybody loves, you and I also have a relationship where I can tell you exactly what I need to tell you. You can tell me exactly what you need to tell me. Sometimes it's a little rough, right? A little hard to hear when my phone won't work and I'm getting frustrated. But here's the thing. Here's what both of us want. We want the best show possible. Yep. You know, what do Bo Nix and Sean Payton want? They want the best offense possible. So
shared moments, shared goals.
Yes. And when you have those shared goals, I don't get mad at you because I know you want the same thing I want. Bo doesn't get mad at Sean because he knows he wants the same thing that he wants. It's just what happens in a work environment, whether it's football or covering football.
I mean, Sean doesn't get mad at Bo. If anything, as we've learned the last 24 hours, Sean admitted this morning he loves it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's probably couldn't stop dreaming about it last night, right? Like, Bo yelled at me.
Maybe that's why he wasn't in a sushi restaurant circling mood.
Yes.
You know, it was honestly like watching that on the sideline. I put that right up there with like the Pat Surtain pick six as far as like two incredibly important moments in not only identifying what this team is going to be, but like how they're going to build from here. Like what is the character of this team? On defense, the character is, okay, if we're coming out and we're playing badly, we believe we're going to get back into it. And actually, before we go back to more on Bo and Sean, let's play a clip from Brandon Jones because this was really interesting what he said. I asked him about the slow start and bouncing back from him. Now, the Surtain pick six, that's the frozen moment right there. But it's also about adjustments. And as Brandon Jones said, they spent the week preparing for Davante Adams just because of what Sean Payton said last week about not wanting to be caught short. But strangely, that might have worked against them early. Here's what Brandon had to say.
Yeah, I think just, without Adams playing, we kind of prepared all week for him to play. And then him not playing, it was kind of a little bit of unknown going into the game. So I think we really didn't know what to expect. We had an idea, but didn't know like exactly to a T like what we're going to be given. So we were having to make a lot of adjustments kind of on the fly, which is a part of the game. And I think they did a really good job when it came to all types of motionings, putting people in different places. So I would say that was like a really big reason for the slow start with the defense. But we kind of got it figured out. We got with the coaches and stuff on the sideline after every series, and just kind of went to work from there.
We did that on the fly, Mace.
Yeah, we got with the coaches. It's so another thing of like working together. Vance Joseph is obviously making the adjustments, but he's talking to his players about what they're seeing, what they're experiencing. And so they're giving him feedback on what they're seeing on the field. He's telling him what he's seeing from the sidelines, what the coaches upstairs are seeing. And you're making adjustments as you go along. You're repairing the plane in flight. And then the result is you set up to make that one big play. And hey, you get a little help from Gardner Minshew. It's a bad throw, bad decision right there. Maybe not a bad decision if it's an accurate throw, but it's a bad throw.
Yeah.
And they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Well, you're prepared because you've been tweaking things over on the sideline. The opportunity comes when a quarterback makes a mistake. And next thing you know, it's 100 yards in the other direction. It's the second longest pick six in the history of the Denver Broncos. And instead of being down 13-3 or 17-3, it's 10-10. And then after that, it's a parade of punts for the Las Vegas Raiders as their offense spent basically most of the next 30 minutes of game time going absolutely nowhere. And also, so that was a turning point for the defense. You know what happened after the Bo Nix, Sean Payton spat on the sideline? Next two drives, touchdowns.
Double up. Two times. Yep. Pissed off Bo Nix is my favorite. Yeah. It's good.
It's becoming his team. Like I'd say, like I'd it's funny also to mention like Surtain on the making the play. It's Bo's team, it's Pat's team.
Yep. That's a good way to put it. And that's good hands to be in as well.
I mean, one might be contending for Defensive Player of the Year. I'd say right now you're starting to see some momentum build for Pat being a legit DPOY candidate, which, by the way, is something that not even the great Champ Bailey got.
Right.
Not even Von Miller got when he was here.
I know quarterbacks are a different blend, but you could say Pat Surtain is the best player of all players in the league. Quarterbacks will be different, but like of all non-quarterbacks, Pat Surtain's at the top of the mountain.
couldn't you argue for a time there in the 2010s that J.J. Watt was the best player in football?
Sure. 1,000%. Yep.
It doesn't have to be a QB.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Pat Surtain. It's here now. And thank God they picked up that flag on Jonah Ellis because he pancaked Gardner Minshew. That was so good.
Like they called the flag. It's like, what was this? I guess the block was too good. The block was too good to be true. So they had to throw a flag. And then they went back and realized that's one of those non-replay replays where you probably got a ref or two looking up at the big scoreboard above the south stands like, okay, yeah, let's rethink that one.
Yeah.
That happens, by the way, more often than you realize for a long time, that the officials will look up and see a replay as they're having a discussion. They'll see it out the corner of their eye and they're like, okay, yeah, let's pick that one up and move on.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm glad that they did that. And Mace, you were there in person for one of the best plays in Broncos history. It's not quite the DT play, which both you and I were there for, but like this play will always be remembered. And those uniforms look so damn sweet. But a win is much more important because if you look that good and then the Raiders beat you, you don't want that, baby.
Well, someone was saying on Twitter, it seemed like every time the Broncos did something big, they on the field face planted. I wouldn't quite agree with that. I mean, I remember all the emotion in the wake of the death of the late Demaryius Thomas, and they did the thing where they took the delay of game with only 10 players on the field at the start of the game to honor him. Now, granted, that was a Detroit team decimated by injuries and COVID, but the Broncos, that was a day with a lot of emotion, a lot of special things going on, and the Broncos went out and dropped the hammer on the Lions. So, but there have been moments where you thought, okay, like something big about to happen, and well, not this time. Although at 10-0, you did. I'll admit, in the press box, there was a lot of, oh boy, they're doing it again. But
here we go again.
Here's the thing. It's different. I don't know if this is a playoff team this year, but the long haul building, they are getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They are going in the right direction.
Traction, progress.
Yes.
You see it. And while in the press box and certainly at home, and a lot of Broncos country was saying, here we go again at 10-0. The guys on the sidelines weren't, Mace. You and I are in that locker room every week. You're in the locker room after the games. Those guys believe in each other, both sides of the ball. Back to our Jonathan Cooper thing that we played last week. Like, they didn't think that. We did. They didn't.
They have a good frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's Sean Payton's kind of team. And that sort of brings it back to the whole thing with Bo Nix, right? That you got a quarterback with some fire.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play the comment about Sean Payton talking about the fire that Bo Nix has and the way he responded to that. Let's
okay, is this one the Payton all good after the Nix spat? Is that one?
Yes, that's
the one. Okay. We got a couple of long ones for you, but they're really, really worth it. So here's the Payton's all good after the spat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All good. All good. It's the heat of the moment. It's the game. It's competitive. He's fiery. And it's, look, we're in the business of passion. We're looking for passion, and we're looking for people that have passion for the game, not other things. And I think that it's so important to him. And so, I loved his response and shoot, we're on to the next play and just, it's nothing.
What was he talking about, Mace? It's a passion for football, not for other things.
We're looking for people who have passion. Yeah.
Are not about other things.
Or come across as dispassionate. I did mention this in my story. I mean, one of the things that Russell Wilson leans on, he's even done a TED Talk about it, is the whole stay neutral thing, which is almost, just kind of not have highs or lows, obviously, kind of wait for a judgment almost, right? And I think it leads to something like the response when Sean Payton's going after him in Detroit on the sideline last December.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what the coach wants. I think the coach wants it a little bit more like Bill Parcells and Phil Simms back in the day. Parcells going in on Simms and Simms giving it right back to him, right? So with all that in mind, that's why I asked a question of Adam Troutman when he did a conference call this afternoon. It's always Sean Payton in the morning, a couple of players in the afternoon. Today was Brandon Jones, who you've heard from earlier, and Adam Troutman. Let's just play the clip. I asked the question, Troutman's response, because I think this reveals a lot, not just about Russell Wilson, but about a lot of the things that have gone on in terms of changes to the team over the last year and a half.
Sean Payton talked about how he's looking for people that have passion for the game, not other things, in terms of players on his roster. And in your experience playing under Sean, how does he make that sentiment clear to you guys and reinforce that on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, I think there's a certain standard that's upheld, and we're professionals and he lets us be professionals, but at the end of the day, you're spending too much time doing something else. If you just don't show that you're here for the right reasons, they'll find a way to replace you. And it's really that simple. So yeah, I mean, you gotta be on top of your stuff, or, you're not going to be playing. You're not going to be a part of the team, really. And it's a culture thing too, right? When you got here last year, we're trying to establish something here. So, yeah, I think that's all part of it. And, yeah, I mean, football's your job. It's not a hobby. So you got to really be dialed in at all times.
And doesn't it seem, Mace, because you and I talk to Troutman every week, there's times when he wants to say more. He doesn't. He's a good pro. But don't you get the feel from Adam when we talk to him and it's he wants to say more, but he doesn't say more, but he kind of gives you some breadcrumbs to chew on.
He steers you in the right direction to where you can figure it out. That's what I'll say this. He's very good at that. And I think
Yes, he is.
He probably also understands Sean Payton better than anybody on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He played 2 seasons for him. Payton drafted him.
Moved up heaven and earth to draft him. He really wanted him.
Yes. And then made a point during the 2023 draft of trading for him, and then re-signed him back in March. Part of it is last year, Adam Troutman served a very important role on the team, in addition to what he did on the field, in that because he understands the rationale of why Sean Payton does it, if players were ever kind of wondering about it, he can translate. This is why we're spending 15 minutes working on a fair catch free kick in an OTA.
Right.
I mean, you haven't been around him. I get why this may not make sense, but it does. He's got less of that to do now because this is becoming more of Sean Payton's team, and he can kind of focus on playing and also focus on, and we'll get into this later in this week, helping a guy like Lucas Kroll around. Kroll's kind of his protege going back to New Orleans. They were together in 2022 and then again the last couple of years. But to go through what Troutman said there, if you just don't show that you're here for the right reasons, they'll find a way to replace you, and it's really that simple.
Mm-hmm. When someone shows you who they are, believe it.
And I'm not saying this is true with every player. I think you can go and see some different examples. Like, for example, Justin Simmons, the reason he's not here is because, and part of this is created by the salary cap, you're playing a money ball game with safeties a bit. And the question of whether Justin was worth the contract the Broncos were giving him, especially when they could create cap space when they were in a crunch, that came up. So you move on from Justin Simmons, you bring in Brandon Jones at a considerably lower price. And then Lloyd Cushenberry, that's a tough choice they had to make. They like Cush a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But you can look at other moves that have been made. Going back to when Sean Payton got the job, I mean, I'll give you an example. Brandon McManus, right? I mean, there's a pretty good kicker for this team, but one who had maybe more of a voice than Sean Payton would want from a kicker.
Sure.
And Ziggy'd gone, no longer with the team.
Some outside interest too with Brandon, some away from football stuff that he would do with Vaughn or whatever. So
Russell Wilson, I mean, we can just go down the list.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue he's more focused on catchphrases almost, right? Like he's got one in Pittsburgh now that was revealed last night on Sunday Night Football.
Ugh.
Russ, stop.
Just stop, Russ.
For the love
it's
of
okay.
God.
It's okay, Russ. Just stop. Just be a person, Russ. You don't have to be a marketing machine all the time.
You don't have to do that. I mean, it's got me wondering if if he ends up starting for the Steelers, is he going to go back to his alma mater, saying a whole pack of Badgers, like so he can get in the Wolf Pack and the Badgers, NC State and Wisconsin? Like, oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to. You don't have to be on. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think Sean Payton needs his quarterback to be on. He needs his quarterback to be on in terms of like the media stuff and all that. It's be on as a football player, be on as a leader, be on as somebody who's taking it all in. And oh, by the way, can do things as Sean Payton wants. Like, for example, not taking sacks. Broncos last year, 27th in the league in sack rate. This year, through 5 games, 4th. Or my bad, 3rd. Sorry, 3rd.
3rd. Even better. Even better.
No, they're 4th in scores inside of 2 minutes in the first half. They're 3rd in terms of sack rate, 4.07%. So they've gone cease from having a sack once every 11 pass plays to once every 25 pass plays, even though they had 3 sacks yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Max Crosby's going to get you, and he got Palcho. Orange Crush wants you to write a second book, Hackett and Wilson chapters.
Oh, man.
That's the all is lost moment. If you're writing a movie, the all is lost moment towards the end before the final act, that's your all is lost moment. Han Solo's in carbonite. Luke's got his hand chopped off. Our pets' heads are falling off. Like, that's the all is lost moment.
Then you look and see Lando and Chewie getting the Millennium Falcon to go get their friend back.
Mm-hmm.
Lando desperately trying to make up for selling his friend down there. Like
even wearing his clothes.
Like Lando finally develops a conscience. Like, I think it's when he sees Han in carbonite.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's the moment where he's like, I messed up.
The moment is when he realizes that I'm altering the plan. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Well, he says the deal is getting worse all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that is, I believe, before he gets frozen.
Yes, it is.
That's when he's about to get frozen. I think for Lando, it's when he sees his friend, and part of it is all. And now I look at it differently, having seen Solo a few years ago, which is better than a lot of people think. And getting kind of the backstory on their relationship, it's like, okay, like I think that's the moment where he realizes, okay, I screwed this up. I have got to make this right somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then spends the rest of that movie and all Return of the Jedi, like disguising himself in the palace and then leading what was actually, I believe, written as a suicide mission. He wasn't supposed to make it out of the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Falcon was I believe it was written as the Falcon gets consumed. He succeeds, but he dies before he can get out.
Yeah. Thank goodness he had Neenum there.
Yeah. He was gonna he goes from like selling out his friend to making an ultimate sacrifice for the galaxy. It's like, I like redemption arcs.
Yeah.
I like redemption arcs with teams as well. Maybe we're on a redemption arc with the Broncos here.
Well, you did mention they're on a 3-game win streak, right? They end one streak. They're on a streak themselves. We'll get more into the Chargers as the week comes up, but you feel good about where they're at because, like you said, it's Pat Surtain, it's Bo Nix's team, and these are Sean Payton players. This is the type of culture, a word that's been tossed around behind the scenes when we talk to players of like, they're establishing culture. We need to establish culture. This is our culture. Standard is another one. Notice how Troutman said it. We've talked to Coop about the standard.
Mm-hmm.
The standard is being set, and that bar is high. That bar is high.
What needs to be high? This is the NFL. If you only
This
have
is
a
the
high
Broncos.
standard, you're not going to succeed. And this is a team that's there was a standard established for a long time, and a lot of those standards were established decades ago in those beautiful uniforms that you saw yesterday. There was something about it. It was like a lot came together. Seeing that fire on the sideline, Pat Surtain with probably the signature play of his career so far, snapping the 8-game losing streak to the Las Vegas Raiders, doing so in the uniforms that really are the Broncos, like that really are at the core of the identity. I mean,
look at that.
I like the current uniforms. I mean, as long as they don't go like all blue, all orange, or have the white socks with the white pants. I mean, I think if they wore them right, they would actually be a good set. But that uniform there, that is the Broncos' identity. Now, there's a lot of conflicting debate. Oh, do you wear them only 1 or 2 times a year to keep them special? Or do you make them the look? I mean, to me, if it were up to me, I'd say just make that the look. I would suggest the middle ground is, and it may depend on the league tweaking some things rule-wise a bit. The middle ground to me would be wear those for home division games. How often do we hear, oh, division games are more important. Division games count double, okay? If you wore those uniforms for every home division game, you'd be saying, okay, these games are special. These are our rivals. These are the teams that we need to take out first if we're going to accomplish anything. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that as well. I think I saw you suggest that on Twitter yesterday.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, part of it is in the AFC West, you've got teams that have good uniforms. See, like, you may hate the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have the same basic look going back to the 60s. There's a reason. It's iconic. The Raiders, silver and black. It's the same basic uniform they've had since the late 60s. It's iconic. The Chargers, there's never been a bad Charger look, but this is the one the one they have now. It harkens back to their earliest days. It's a unique color combo in the NFL. And when I saw the Broncos yesterday, I'm like, okay, if that uniform stacks up with the rest of the division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That looks good. I can't wait to see that uniform against the Chiefs in the regular season finale. And who knows? I mean, maybe we're being optimistic here, but that game's going to mean something there in January on that Sunday night.
Well, I'll say it because I'm crazy. Maybe you're playing for the division. The Chiefs scored 22 points a game. That's 17th in the NFL since the start of the 2023 season. So, okay, you have an opportunity. You're putting yourself now. That's way ahead. They're most likely playing for a wild card spot. But, like, the Chiefs have been down. They won the Super Bowl and they were down. Like they could be down again and still win the Super Bowl again, but it doesn't mean that you just genuflect and like, we can't beat them. Like, no, you can go beat them.
You beat them last year.
Yeah.
You beat them last year with a performance by the quarterback that drove the coach up the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh, it's good times, man.
It feels good,
feeling,
right?
Good moment.
It feels really good. Yep. It feels good where Bo's at in his progress as well. You know, something that he'll have more struggles.
Excuse me.
Okay. It's not like we're out of the woods with Bo. Bo's going to have his struggles again. But when you see stuff like this, when you see the mannerisms with Sean Payton, when you see the way that he can place a football and the way that he can lead his team, that gives you good feeling about where he's at. It's 5 games, everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know what some people wanted 5 games in, but 5 games in, you should be really happy with Bo Nix. And all the Nix, anything that people say that's a little sideways about Nix, it's just from people that didn't like the pick. So if you didn't like the pick, get over it.
He became the first quarterback in Broncos history, first rookie quarterback in Broncos history, to have 2 touchdown passes, 1 touchdown run, and no interceptions in a game. Something no rookie quarterback in history has done. I will say this. There's a lot of consternation about that ESPN QBR. I don't know where they came up with a 26.8 QBR on a 0 to 100 scale. That placed him 24th of 27 eligible quarterbacks. Somehow ESPN QBR gave Gardner Minshew a higher QBR than Bo Nix. I would say if they did, then their algorithm is faulty. Of course, the problem with QBR is we don't see the work. I mean, passer rating is flawed, but at least you can calculate it.
Right.
So, in that QBR, the haters, I mean, and I hate that term. In that QBR, the people who don't see Bo Nix as a viable starting quarterback saw the evidence that they were looking for. In the actual performance, which included the ball going right through Troy Franklin's wickets. I mean, that should have been a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot more. I saw more good than bad, especially as the game progressed.
Yes.
And I saw some of the best work after the spat on the sideline.
Do you know what it says to me about the slow start, Mace? We'll do this and then we'll wrap up today's show. I think Sean has to give Bo more. I think there's some training wheels on, especially early, where he's like, wait. Bo looks most comfortable in a 2-minute offense. Bo looks most comfortable going downfield. Bo looks most comfortable when he can take off to run. And it seems like to start these games, the first 15 for Sean are like, hold on there, young fella. Like, open it up.
Except against Tampa Bay.
Exactly. We've seen it before.
So you got to come out with a little more aggression. Dare I say a little more fire. Come out with more fire. Sean Payton says he likes fiery Bo Nix there on the sideline. Maybe the game plans themselves have to have a little bit more early fire.
Mm-hmm. Get
that thing going right away. Catch an opponent off guard. Because that's, it's despite the QBR, I like this performance on Sunday. I thought it was probably Bo's most complete performance overall. You can debate whether it's this or Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Part of why I was honestly shocked when I saw the QBR. That's okay.
Yep.
He's growing. He's learning. He's getting better. I think the decision making is getting better. The accurate, he did miss some throws early, and that is one thing. The accuracy has not yet revealed itself. The accuracy from college. It was a 70% day completion percentage wise yesterday, but remember there were a lot of throws to the running backs. I mean, that the whole thing, I put it out there late in the first half, how much was going to the running backs compared to tight ends and wide receivers. I want to see the tight ends get involved. I was glad to see Lucas Kroll have a catch. I want to see more of that. I was glad to see Adam Troutman make a play downfield. I want to see more of that.
Yeah. And we'll keep you up to date on offensive line issues. If Paltrow has a high ankle sprain, Mace, that's
probably
a month.
That's and the interesting thing now is you have to start making injured reserve decisions based on only having 8 players you can return from IR. That's the thing. You are only allowed 8 over the course of the season who can come back from IR after at least 4 weeks. So do you have an injury situation where maybe that player just stays on the 53 while they get healthy because you're trying to save a spot? That's something to consider as well. But Alex Palczewski, the reports are high ankle sprain, and like you said, that's probably a 4-week injury, which by definition would then say, okay, you could put him on injured reserve. They won't have Mike McGlinchey in this game. They're without him for one more game. Interesting thing on McGlinchey and Baron Browning. McGlinchey went on injured reserve Wednesday of week 3. Baron Browning went on injured reserve Saturday of week 3. And it's a 4-week time. So McGlinchey going on injured reserve Wednesday means you can have him. You'll have him back potentially for Thursday Night Football. And with Paltrow dealing with a high ankle sprain, I know we'd all sort of had the speculation. Oh, do you take your time with McGlinchey with Paltrow playing so well? That's basically moot. Mike's gonna be back in the lineup ASAP.
Yeah. Get him back out there, and he's your starting right tackle. Even if Paltrow was healthy and still playing good football, and Max Crosby's gonna get everybody. When he got Paltrow on that play, I was just like, oh, kid. Still love Paltrow, but it's like, that's Max Crosby, man.
I had a feeling it was going to be a rough day for Paltrow. This was stepping up in class. Doesn't mean Paltrow can't be a good player, but this is going to happen. Bo Nix is going to have a rough day against a good defense at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Kansas City. I mean, I would not be surprised if when the Broncos play at the Chiefs, even if Bo Nix is starting to come along, if he struggles in that game. It'll happen. Gotta trust the bigger picture sample size. Gotta trust the long-term arc.
Right. And we shall see what that looks like. Mace, how you feeling today, man? How you doing? How you living?
I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
I'm day to day.
Yeah, day to day. But we are here for you, and you are here for us. Let's wrap this one. We'll get you more tomorrow. Certainly appreciate y'all for jumping on board. But before we're out of here, Andrew Mason, people need to help us on YouTube. How can they do just that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss vid.
I was told we weren't using props.
Oh, okay. No more props.
I'm kidding.
All right. It's all real. It's all good. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.